Good to have Shabbos, everyone. Parshas, Reeh, and Shabbos Mevorchim, the month of Elul. So an idea that connects the two. We learned this morning the Sikha. The Rebbe speaks about Elul is Melech Masad, the kings in the field. And we know the famous example that the Alter Rebbe gives in this week's Likutei Torah, that the reason why Elul is not a month of a Yom Tov, even though there's such great revelations like the first 13 attributes of mercy, is because specifically it's supposed to be in a weekday kind of environment, because the message of Elul is Melech Masad, the kings in the field. And like a king in the field, all the manifestation, all the royalty, all the crown and the clothing and the palace, that's all not there. It's just the king in his simple clothing, and we go out and we meet the king in our simple clothing, in our weekday, in our mundane, and we're able to connect the pshitus of the Jew, the simplicity of the Jew, with the simplicity of Hashem. And that's an amazing idea, because the clothing and the garments and the palace and all that is just an expression of who's inside that. That's that the king that we know is something great. But when we're able to connect with the greatness, and we don't need the clothing, we don't need the palace, we don't need all the manifestation, all the royalty, so we should recognize that this is our king. It's a deep, deep connection between us and Hashem. And that's like the Rebbe says, the avoda, the part that we have to do is we have to go meet him. We have to recognize and accept upon ourselves that this is our king. And this really connects to the Parshas Reeh. Reeh means see. And like we've spoken in years before, the idea to see something, the visual, is certainty. Like the Pasuk says, and the Rebbe quotes this Pasuk, Asher Tishma'un, you're going to listen. Because when you see something, you're certain, you're surely going to listen. And that certainty is what gives us the energy to march into the field and to meet the king. And this connects to the idea that's brought down in this week's Parsha, an amazing idea that we spoke about before, but to go to the second part really, where the Alter Rebbe quotes the pasuk that says, Achrei Hashem Elokecha Teilecha, we should follow Hashem, and Oisei Tiro, we should fear Hashem, Mitzvaysev Tishmaru, we should keep the mitzvahs, Uvekoili Tishmaun, and we should listen to his voice, V'Oisei Savoidi, we should serve him, and Ubay Tidvakun, and we should cleave to him. And the Alter Rebbe says an amazing idea, that the first 4 stages of following God, fearing God, listening, doing Hashem's mitzvahs, listening to God, that's the perfection, that's the tzaddik. And the tzaddik is perfect, but he's still not the level of Oisei Tavoidu, the Alter Rebbe says. Oisei Tavoidu means to serve Hashem. And we know to be a servant. And we know it's an amazing thing that Halacha brings down, and we talk about it a little in this week's Parsha in the 6th reading, is it talks about the idea of slavery. What does it mean to be a slave? And when you look at the halachas, the Rambam, it analyzes the slave. A slave is like the Torah recognizes the status of a slave as almost being subhuman. There's certain laws that are basic laws that apply to both Jews and Gentiles that don't apply to slaves. It's almost as if they're in a category of their own, which means that you can't. I mean, how low could a human fall to be subhuman? But we learned about in this week's Parsha, before it talks about following Hashem, it says, God tests us, and in a test, in a nisayon, is such a high spark that the only way to reveal that spark is to fall so low. And the same idea is that the idea of slavery, that someone's a slave in this world, that we look at it that's so low, is because on the flip side, to serve Hashem is so high. That even a person who's righteous, a person tzaddik, a person who's complete, says, how can I be a perfect person? That's still not the level of a slave. A person who serves Hashem, like it says in the 15th chapter of Tanya, that we separate of Oived Elokim v'Asher lo yavadeh, a person who serves God and a person who doesn't serve God. Serving God is another whole category. Certain regular ideas that apply to a person don't apply to a person of service. The accomplishments that we can accomplish, just like we could fall really low if we become chas v'shalom a slave. To be a slave to Hashem, to be a servant to Hashem, like we say, im kabanim, we could be like sons, like children. That's the tzaddikim. Im kavadim, if we're going to be like servants, we could reach levels that are so high that only a person who serves Hashem. That's why, like Tanya brings down, that when you do it, you push yourself, you get out of your norm, you get out of your what you're comfortable with. When it's not about you. Like the person who leaves their comfort zone to go to the field and meet the king, it's not about you, it's about that I'm a servant of Hashem. I'm accepting Hashem as my king. I don't need even the crown, I don't need the palace. This is my king. This is he, this is my Lord. Then a person is connected to Hashem in a way of Oisei Ta'avoid, you become a servant of Hashem. That's the highest level a person could reach. And then Ubay Tidvakun, then you cleave to Hashem. I want to wish everyone to have a successful month, a good Shabbos, a successful month of the Chodesh Elul, the Chodesh Arachim, the Chodesh of compassion, the 13 attributes of mercy. Go out to the field, meet the King, cleave to the King, become a servant to the King, and we should be Zeicha to the coming of Mashiach B'Karav Mamash. Good Shabbos.